Got several stories this morning as we continue the Song of Lament story, or sermon series. The first story comes from about 1000 BC, and then another story from 600 BC. But I'll start with this one. The newspaper announcement went like this: Everett, age 2 months, passed away Thursday, July 14, 2016, in the local hospital. He was born May 12 in Fort Worth, Texas. Graveside service will be held at 9 a.m. Monday at Memory Gardens Cemetery. There are situations that I find myself in, that I know you find yourself in, that you just never would have chosen for yourself, never would have chosen for anyone close to you to pass through. And one of those occasions for me was this occasion when I was asked to preach the funeral service for baby Everett. What do you say? What do you do at a moment like that? And looming over this graveside service was this question of how. How did this happen? Literally, there was not a good answer. We didn't know what happened to baby Everett. And so it was another one of those SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome cases, when we just don't know exactly what happened. And so that question, how, was overshadowing. And then, of course, the theological question, very personal question: how does a good and all-powerful God allow this to happen? And those are good questions. I had officiated that couple's wedding not too long before, out there in Weatherford, Texas. Beautiful summer afternoon, backyard of one of their friends. It was gorgeous, and that couple, so handsome. I mean, they look like they could be right off the cover of a bridal magazine. All smiles on that day when they exchanged their vows. Dressed to the nines, taking selfies with their friends after the ceremony. Music was pumping out there in the backyard. And now this. And so this week, as I was thinking about what to say this morning as we continue in the Lament series, I pulled open that Word document from 2016 to see what I said as the family gathered around this tiny coffin to say goodbye. I quoted words from Psalm 34 to that mourning mother and father. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. David penned those words when he was on the run, when death was pursuing him. To the west, the Philistines were set against this upstart for reasons you might be aware of. There was that thing about Goliath, their hero, and his own people to the east. The Israelites, under the command of King Saul, were pursuing him. It wasn't fair, it wasn't right, but that's what he was passing through. And in the middle of this valley, of this circumstance he never would have chosen for himself, in that psalm, he also wrote these words, verse 1, I will bless the Lord in all times. I will bless the Lord no matter what. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. And writing in verse 18, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, close to people like you and me, when we're at the lowest moment, when we're walking through the valley of the shadow. Verse 8 in that same psalm, he pens these words in his hour of desperation. He writes, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in the Lord." We've heard that phrase before, taste and see that the Lord is good. Do you know that he wrote it when things weren't good? But he found the good as he took refuge in God. And so last week we began talking about lament. Old Testament, New Testament. It is the language of God's people when things are not as they should be. It's the language that we grasp for in the dark when we are brokenhearted, when we are brought low. And this vocabulary that's God-given is powerful, it is healing, it allows us to pass through pain while holding on to promise, to endure hurt while never letting go of hope. And as God's children, we lament, we complain, we mourn. But when we do that, we move beyond what we see into what we know. We name the brokenness, we name the pain that surround us, and we say, yet, but, nevertheless, we will worship the Lord at all times. The Thessalonian Christians were confused in the New Testament. They were confused because they put their faith in Jesus. They were told Jesus was coming back. But then they were watching dear family members and church family members expire, pass away. I don't know if they had obituaries in Thessalonica, but if they did, they were reading obituaries of people they loved very much, and they wondered, how could this happen? How? And Paul wrote them, 1 Thessalonians 4:13, he wrote them, that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope. Check this out. We grieve. We just don't grieve like others who have no hope. If you don't know how to grieve this way, I hope you will learn. I hope you will learn to lament, because at some point or another, you're going to need it. You're going to ask, how? How did this tragedy happen? How am I still struggling with the same sin that I've been struggling with for 20 years? How can God watch this injustice happen and nothing is done to remedy the situation? How? Which gets me to the book of Lamentations, which Mike already quoted those words this morning. We sang those words this morning. The book of Lamentations isn't called the book of Lamentations in Hebrew. In Hebrew, the title of the book is very simple, Ekah. How? And God's people got that title from the first word of the book of Lamentations, chapter 1, verse 1. Jeremiah writes, how lonely sits the city that was full of people. He's looking at Jerusalem. He says, how like a widow she has become. She who was great among the nations, she who was a princess among the provinces, has become a slave. And so when we hear those words that we sing, that we rejoice in Jeremiah, or rather in Lamentations chapter 3, we know the context, right? Jeremiah writes, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will wait for him. He pronounced those words. This is a drawing from the late 1800s depicting this. He pronounced those words over a destroyed Jerusalem. He's watching the city burn. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. He's reminding God's people that they can hold on to hope even when life is a disaster zone. The city of God. Think about it. Zion, for 2 long years had been surrounded by the greatest superpower of the day, Babylon. They had been starved. They had been cut off from the world. And so 587 BC is the year that Jerusalem finally succumbed, that the city surrendered to Babylon. And his lament expressed faith while the city was on fire. His tears filled his eyes as he proclaimed, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. Last week we saw the 4 elements of lament. They're not always going to appear in order. Lament is not a clean, neat, and tidy thing, is it? They're not always going to appear in order. Sometimes one of the elements will be repeated several times. Sometimes there will be this here, and then it'll come up again later in the lament, the prayer. But lament has a direction. It's different. It's a complaint, right? It's a complaint. Everybody complains, but lament is Christian. Lament is ours. Lament is of God's people. It is a complaint directed to someone, namely God. I take it to God. Lament has description to it, has descriptive words. This, Lord, is what is wrong. This is what I see. Jeremiah is very descriptive in the book of Lamentations. Tells us all about the problems of God's people, and in particular, Jerusalem. It describes the situation. It names what is not right. Lament has a demand to it, or a request, an ask to it. It says, here is what I want you to do. This is what, God, you can offer to remedy the situation. And lament also has this element of devotion. This is the yet, the but, the nevertheless. With everything I just said, Lord, I'm still going to praise you. I still proclaim that your mercies never come to an end. Lament is language of faith, isn't it? It's a posture of faith. Mark DeVries wrote these words. He said, faith helps us stand under God's sovereignty even when we have no idea what God is doing. That's faith. And so lament is this all-season faith. It's that tread you get on the tires of your faith when things are a little bit slippery, a little bit dangerous. Things are not as they should be. It's something that you need. It's something that we need as a community of faith, not only for our moment of desperation, our heart cry, but so that we can come alongside others and love them better when they're passing through that season of suffering and struggle. Rebecca Eklund wrote this. She said, lament shapes the person who laments. It inclines them in a certain direction. Lament inclines toward hope. It leans toward the light while still in the darkness. It takes doubts and fears over God's silence and shapes them into prayer. David was well acquainted with sorrow and struggle. There were situations and circumstances that he did not deserve, that he did not choose. There were others that he completely was responsible for, that he steered into. He knew grief at various moments of his life and struggle. Our main text this morning is from Psalm 3. It's a short psalm, but it's another one of these poems or songs that David wrote in one of these situations that no one would choose for themselves. The man after God's own heart in Psalm 3 is afflicted and pursued not by the Philistines to the west or his own people to the east, but by his own flesh and blood. As David writes Psalm 3, his son, dear Absalom. His son Absalom is pursuing him and wants his head on a platter. David has fled Jerusalem. David is on the run again, but this time it's his own family in hot pursuit. And Absalom has numbers. He's got David outnumbered and on the run. So once again, David, we find him turning to the Lord with a song of lament. Psalm 3. O Lord, how many are my foes? Many are rising against me. They are saying, there is no salvation for him in God. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me. You are my glory. You are the lifter of my head. I cried aloud to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy hill. I lay down and slept. I woke up again, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of many thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around. Arise, O Lord. Save me, O my God. For you strike all my enemies on the cheek. You break the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessing be on your people. And so David looks at what's going on in his life. It is unfair. It is undeserved. It is unjust. It is desperate. Surrounded. All sides. I think the theme word I noticed this week as I worked through Psalm 3, the theme word was many. That's the theme of his lament. Many, verse 1, are my foes. Many, verse 1, are those rising against me. Many, verse 2, are saying there's no salvation for him in God. And verse 6, many thousands of people have set themselves against me. Surrounded. I've had moments where I had in my life to face a challenge or two at the same time, a danger to be alert to, a serious struggle that needed to be resolved. What about you? David was overwhelmed with challenges at one singular moment. That's next order. That's next level. Many were his foes. And did his lament, did it have direction? We talked about how lament has direction. Yeah, verse 1. He cried, first words of Psalm 3, O Lord. This song is a song to you. Yours are the ears that I want to hear this plea. Did he describe what was wrong? Of course he described what was wrong. Over and over in that psalm, many are rising against me. Many have set themselves against me. I am surrounded. Did it have a demand? Verse 7, yeah. Strike my enemies on the cheek. Break the teeth of the wicked. Take my enemies out. That's his request. And finally, in all of that stress, in all of that sorrow, as his own son pursues him to take his life, even in that crisis, yes, he inclines his heart toward hope. There is that yet, that but, that nevertheless, as he says, salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessing be on your people. And yeah, that lament, it turns on that yet, that but. Verse 3. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me, my glory, and the lifter of my head. Jeremiah saw destruction all around him, ruin. David, with his own eyes, saw many enemies, dangers, challenges. And both directed their hearts toward what they knew to be true, despite what their eyes saw. We have a choice. We can wallow in the muck of despair. We can pretend, right? Everything's fine. Lament says to us, come and talk to the Father about all that you're going through. I mentioned last week that churches don't often know how to do lament. Many of the new songs of praise, 95+%, are not lament psalms. And I said the American church is not very good at lamenting. I need to put one caveat, one asterisk on that. The African American church is good at lamenting. Those brothers and sisters have been using this language, deploying lament for a very long time. Suffering under slavery, violence, injustice, and that low-grade suffering of having other people tell them, it's all fixed, it's all better now. You don't need to complain anymore. And so they've deployed this language where they look through the tears of this life. In spirituals, they look toward the joys of the next. And there are many spirituals. Here's one of them. I ain't got weary yet. I ain't got weary yet. I ain't got weary yet. I've been in the wilderness a mighty long time, and I ain't got weary yet. I've been praying like Silas. I've been preaching like Paul. I've been walking with my Savior. I've been walking with the Lord. I've been in the wilderness a mighty long time, and I ain't got weary yet. Inclined toward hope while walking in the wilderness. Back to that question that the Hebrews asked in the very title of the book of Lamentations. How? This mathematics does not add up. You are powerful, you are good, but this is happening at the same time. So how do we hold on to pain and promise when we're asking that question? With so much hurt, how do we continue to hope? As followers of Jesus, we look to the Christ, the Son of God, who redeemed us, who took our sin and shame upon himself as he went to the cross. What was mournful, what was despicable, what was unjust, what was cruel, what was bloody, it turned into victory, didn't it? Oh, victory in Jesus. As that scene unfolded on that day, that Friday, Good Friday we call it now, it didn't look very good though, did it? Some family members, one apostle, looked on as he was crucified and thought, how? How could his ministry end like this? How could this be part of God's plan? And then the cross became a symbol of hope. It became something that people wear around their necks, that tattoo on their shoulders, that hang proudly in their churches. The cross is ugly and the cross is beautiful at the same time. It's painful, it's promising, it's hurt, and it's hope. God saw our desperate situation, and He said, I got you. With grateful hearts, we say to Jesus, You, O Lord, are a shield about me. You are the lifter of my head. In every sorrow and struggle, graveside service, miscarriage, unjust accusation, every betrayal, every lonely moment, every time the desires of our hearts are not fulfilled, we can say, I ain't got weary yet. So we hold on to the one who died and who was raised, the one whose final words before ascending to the Father were, Lo, I am with you always, to the very end of the age.